Alright, y'all, so it's your favorite doula Naya here. And I'm wanting to quickly address some reasons behind why you should not rush to get married. And as a matter of fact, you should not get married with any ulterior motive other than I want to serve and help this person for the rest of their life or for the rest of my life. Don't get married because this person looks like they'll be dedicated to helping and serving me for the rest of my life. Don't get married because this person has the potential to be something that will make my life good or make my life fun or make my life blah, blah. Do not get married with any motives other than I have intentions on loving and serving and giving to this person and choosing this person until the day that I die, no matter what. Okay? And I say that because I am a guidance advocate for for the sake of professionalism. I'm not gonna say the name of the partnership that I work with teenage mothers, inner city youth, that kind of thing. But I work with high school teenage mothers, okay? And today they triggered me. Now, y'all, I've been trying my best not to get triggered. I knew that taking on this assignment out of the goodness and kindness of my soul, I wanted to give back and, you know, be a part of the healing process for teenage mothers and stuff. I knew that taking on this assignment could possibly trigger me in a lot of ways. So today I kept it together. I tried my best not to be triggered because of course, there are some of the teenage mothers. A couple of them just had a baby. A couple of them are pregnant. For the mothers that are pregnant, of course, some of them are looking at, you know, considering just quickly marrying their baby dad when they turn 18. If they're not 18 yet, they're quickly, you know, choosing to marry their baby dad because, you know, they're pregnant. It's like a shotgun wedding. And I am completely against shotgun weddings at this point in my life. Maybe I wasn't always. Like, this wasn't always my belief system. Like, this has not always been how I felt. But it's how I feel now after going through some things in my life, and we're going to talk about it. So because I was triggered, I had to, you know, make sure I utilize all of my emotional intelligence and self-control because I'm not allowed to share a lot of my personal life and my triggers with the girls in school, like while they're in school, like while I'm working with them in the program. If they want to talk to me personally outside of school, I have been cleared by the program to deal with the girls on a personal level, as long as their parents, basically once they go home, it's up to their parents what happens. Like, I'm not allowed to be calling. Of course, I wouldn't do it anyway because they're kids, but I don't call them and say, hey, this is what I'm going through. You know, this is what I've been through. Let me vent to you. That's not how it goes. But they can reach out to me for help or any kind of advocacy with their parenting journey as teenage mothers, you know, as long as their parents are okay with it. As long as their parents permits my advice into their life, then it's fine. It has nothing to do with the program at that point. So I didn't correct or chastise these young women for wanting to marry their baby dads while they are all still babies. They're all under the age of 20. I didn't do that. I was triggered by some of their decisions, but I respected their decisions as young women and young mothers in America who can make their own decisions. With that being said, though, I let them know. I let them know that I didn't agree with their decisions, and I let them know where to find me online. if they want to know why I don't agree with their decisions, because yes, I am allowed to say what I want to say online as long as it doesn't reflect poorly on the program and I don't expose anybody's name or anything like that. So for professional purposes, we're going to leave that program name out of this, but we're going to talk about what happened, because I only like to give advice from my experiences, and I experienced a lot being married because I feel like it's because I chose a shotgun wedding, and I wasn't a teenager. First of all, I wasn't a minor. Like, I made a choice and I followed through. I was 27 years old. And I felt like, hey, I already had 2 babies single. I'm not having any more babies single. So I assumed that marriage would remedy the situation and how I felt, right? Okay, fine. So I went ahead and I got married thinking that it would be an easier or better way to raise children. And I learned some things as a wife. Reason number 1, here, the first reason why you don't marry for pregnancy or for any other ulterior motive, such as loneliness, such as being love-starved. Some people rush into marriages and relationships, very serious relationships and engagements and stuff, because they were being love-starved. And sometimes because they got pregnant accidentally. That was my case. And people rush into marriage for economic reasons, like, the financial benefits of marriage, okay? The first reason is because this person needs enough time to show you that they can provide for you and protect you, okay? Especially as a young mother, especially, you already have somebody to provide and protect, right? So this man needs to be able to provide and protect you. You should not be getting married so that you don't look like a fool when you choose to take your boyfriend in to your provision and your protection. You don't want to look like a sinner if you're religious, or you don't want to look like a fool when you allow your boyfriend to move in with you and your baby, and all of y'all are living together like one little happy, stable family. Yes, it will be one little happy, stable family, but he needs to be providing for you and protecting you and that baby if you're going to get married. Because when you get married, you solidify anything that's going on in the relationship. So I'm not saying that people change. I'm not saying that people don't change. I'm not saying that people can't grow and evolve after they get married and do better financially and economically. However, he does not have to change into a person who's more stable or reliable after you marry him. Once you sign that marriage contract, you're in the contract. So he can take his sweet time becoming stable and responsible and independent. He can take his sweet time becoming a good protector and provider. And you'll be lucky if he ever gets there. A lot of marriages go through struggle and hardship financially, and they suffer through poverty because the wife had the babies and took care of the family and was the nurturer, but she was also the provider and protector. And because that is too overwhelming on one person, it caused stagnation. So it's like, okay, we're growing and we're evolving, but our finances are stagnant because one person is being overwhelmed. And when you rush into marriage, you don't give him a chance to show you how long he'll take to get it together, like to get his life together, to get his ish together. It might take him 2 years. Okay, fine. It might take him 5 years. Okay, fine. But if you marry him, that 2 years suddenly becomes 6 years. That 5 years suddenly becomes 11 years. and so on and so forth. Why? Because he could take his sweet time once you married him. But, you know, if he's still trying to marry you and he's still trying to solidify you guys as a family and, you know, independent, then he's gonna work better. Like he's gonna have that motivation to help him keep momentum toward his goals. You don't want to remove that motivation. You don't want to remove that incentive of marrying you. And you don't want to solidify something that is going to stress you out over years and years, and you're going to be burnt out and drained and dragged out. You know, you don't want to solidify something that's going to be unhealthy for you. That's an unhealthy lifestyle, okay? Another reason you should not, you got to make sure that he's not a creep. One thing that I learned in life, like I married a creep, right? And I learned a lot from it. Like, he was legally allowed to be a creep. We're going to get into that. But, you know, a person's mask cannot stay on forever. If you decide to be engaged for 3 years or 2 years, that's completely reasonable and acceptable. And it gives more than enough time for whatever mask he might be wearing to go ahead and slip off. Okay, young women, okay, young mothers, okay? If you are wearing a mask, it's more than enough time for your mask to slip off and fall off so that you can be yourself and you can actually show this man who you really are before y'all get married. Because you want to know who you are before you get married as well. Not just him, but you. It's very reasonable. Like, you know, I get it, okay. An engagement, if you're not having a big wedding, a long engagement is not necessary. And I get that. I agree with that. But a 1 to 2 year engagement might be necessary. 3 to 5 years might be necessary because you are basically vetting him for a lifetime commitment. You have every intention on being with him until you're 120 years old. You're vetting him for a lifetime commitment. So it is well within reason to want to be engaged for, 2-3 years so that you can know exactly who you're dealing with. You have to make sure he's not carrying any kind of spirits of perversiveness, including pedophilia. You have to make sure he's not physically abusive whenever he doesn't get his way and he can't control you. You have to make sure that he doesn't fall into addictions and gambling stuff. Stuff that could destroy your life apart from him. Okay? Yes, we know if times get bad, times get tough, you can always get divorced. Okay, well, getting divorced is not easy 100% of the time, especially if one person doesn't want to get divorced. And you want to make sure that you make it to the divorce. You want to survive until you get to the divorce point. Okay, you don't want your life to be completely destroyed by the time you go and you try to get a divorce. Okay, divorces are painful. Detachment is painful. Okay, detaching from somebody is like doing your own surgery. It's like needing a tumor cut out of you, needing a cancerous tumor cut off of you, and you give yourself a local anesthetic and you get the scalpel and you do your own surgery. It's traumatizing. Even surgeons, they don't do their own surgeries, okay? Like, it's traumatizing, it's hard, it's difficult, it's painful. Even recovery is painful. So, you don't want to put yourself in a situation where, okay, well, if we have a problem, I'll just remedy it with detachment or divorce. Because it's not always that easy, all right? In my case, I dealt with all of the financial instability because I rushed into marriage for the sake of my children and, me maintaining my stability. But I was already very much an independent woman at the time. Like I said, I was 27 years old. I had 2 daughters. But the man that I rushed and married, he was helping me to manage everything that I had to do on my own, because it's too much for one person. And which is why you want to get married. And I get that. Just because it's too much for one person does not mean rush into marriage. That means lean on your village. I didn't have a village. I still don't have a good village. I don't come from good parents and good people and good siblings, and so I didn't have a village, and I still don't. So it doesn't mean though that I should go and rush and sign my life away to a man, okay? And I also want you to remember what marriage means. If you take the definition of a wife from the Bible, if you're biblical at all, I'm spiritual, but if you're biblical at all, a helpmate, okay? So a servant, we used to call servants the help, all right? And then somebody who's a mate is somebody that you have an intimate sexual relationship with. So it's a servant that you have sex with, and it's legally binding. So like that person is under a legal contract to serve you and have sex with you. That's what a wife is, which is why the Bible says a man that finds a wife finds a good thing, because she's expected to be a lifelong servant of his empire, his whatever he's building, whatever he's doing with his life. If he's having babies, she's gonna give birth to them, and she's gonna feed and nurture them and take care of them for him. Whatever legacy he's building, whatever he's doing with his life, his wife is supposed to be an employee or a slave to that, while she's also intimately offering her body to him. So if you take that definition, that's just from the Bible, and then you pair it with what we're doing in today's standards in society, you have to remember that there's a lot of trifling stuff that happens to wives that is completely legal. Completely legal, okay? So the cops can't help you, okay? The justice system, they might fail you when you try to cry out for help, because there's a lot of things that husbands can do to wives that are trifling, that are illegal. So you can always get help for it. But there is a lot of completely legal ways to abuse a spouse. Not just a wife and not just a husband, but a spouse. There's completely legal ways to abuse a spouse, and you can't go cry to nobody for help, all right? So you got to make sure he's not an abusive type of creep. You want to know how he manages finances. You want to know how he thinks about finances. And you cannot find all of this information out with shotgun time. Shotgun wedding ain't going to do it. One of my horror stories is, I feel like I'm only going to give the example. I had a lot of issues with my shotgun marriage, but I'm going to give the one that broke the camel's back. I'm going to talk about the situation where he went past the point of no return. Like I personally, in my convictions and who I am, I couldn't be his wife after this. But it was completely legal. So what happened is, one of the daughters that I already had before we got married, he was helping me with, he started grooming her. And I had proof and evidence and suspicions of him grooming her. And all he had to do was deny it. And all she had to do was deny it. You know, she's not completely innocent either. But all they had to do was deny it. And okay, it made me look like the crazy bad guy. Until him grooming her, until it became a sexual relationship. So, now I got this husband that is intentionally forming a sexual relationship with my child. Why? Because he's a creep. Because he has, some demons that maybe I didn't know what to do with. Even if I could recognize them, and even if I could call them out, right? I didn't know what to do with it. I had to be honest. So it's like I asked for help from everybody else, and I just had to take everybody else's guidance, and I had to take everybody else's advice, and I kind of did what everybody told me to do, because I really didn't know what to do. But once it happened, once it came down to it, then I knew exactly what to do. Even, in these cases where, daughters get molested by stepfathers and stuff like that, in these cases, the Bible says that, the parent who kind of did the crime, they get cut off from their family. So, that was just in the Bible. I was a Christian back when this happened. And according to the Bible, he's supposed to be completely cut off from us with no access to us. So what I did was I said, okay, because my daughter was a certain age to make what he did with her illegal. Basically, yeah, he got oral sex from my child. And it was completely legal because she was of consenting age. But the problem is all of the years that she was being groomed, all of the time that she was being groomed, she was not of legal age. So they put him on, because I have proof of him grooming her. Like, I have text messages from him to her. And I was, I confronted him about the messages, and then I called the police about what I saw. And it was like, oh no, that wasn't what she thought it was. That wasn't what she thought it was. Okay, and then when the sexual situation happened, CYS stepped in and said, well, we do think that the mom was right in the first place. We do think that it's exactly what she thought it was. And, this could have been nipped in the bud had it been taken more seriously when the mom, who was me, said something prior to, when I had suspicions. And so CYS decided that is abusive, like that mental, emotional abuse. You can't be grooming your daughter into a sexual relationship, even if it is your stepdaughter, right? It's not illegal if she's of a certain age, though. It's completely legal. It's trifling, but it's legal. CYS decided to put him on the child abuse registry, but he doesn't have any arrest record. So it's like, how are they saying he abused a child, but there's been no arrest made about it? There's been no legal nothing about, right? But supposedly he abused somebody. It's like they both can't be true. Why? Because there is forms of legal abuse. Young ladies, I need people to realize where we're living and the time that we're living in America, okay? I'm sitting here with proof. I done dropped it on the floor. But I'm sitting here with proof of legal abuse. Because what it says at the end, and I have the report in my cell phone too, but it says at the end, because there's no biology, because they're not biological in the relationship, the oral sex was consented by my daughter. Guess what? They can't really arrest him for anything. He didn't, when he got interviewed by the police about it, he made no statement. He didn't want to make any statement. He didn't want to say he did. He didn't want to say he didn't. I have all of that here, so, I'm not just sitting here telling fables so you young ladies can make decisions that I feel you should make. Or I'm not trying to persuade you to run your life in a certain direction. I'm not that kind of person. I think that we all have a soul path, and we have to follow the path of our soul wherever it may lead and however we may do things. Like, I know that the blessing that came out of my marriage is my children, because the only way I was going to have that many children was if I was married. And I knew it was important on my soul path to have children. So, I'm happy for you guys choosing to keep your babies, young ladies, and choosing to try to work things out with the child's father. I'm not over here supporting broken homes and moms being overly burdened. I'm not, because I got some horror stories about that too, okay? So, we just going to deal with this one right now. But I digress. I'm not just here, spitting horrible stuff. Like, listen, I am the last person who would want to say that my husband, I made this decision and it wasn't one of my best. You know what I mean? At the time, it was the best that I could do. I was in a desperate type of time. You should never be desperate before you get married. Never. I don't care if it's desperate for love. I don't care if it's desperate for companionship. Because see, now, because what he did was completely legal, he can go on and do that to another woman who might be love starved. He can go and he can love bomb another young lady who has a good heart and she has kids and she's a single mom, and she's gonna move him into her home and she's gonna overlook all the red flags. Whenever you get married desperate, you overlook all the red flags. I was desperate for help and support with my children. Not financial support, but I needed that other human, that other adult. I needed village. And you know, now who he's dealing with, she's more of a love starved energy, okay? So he's able to go and love bomb her. And you know, I can look at her and I can tell that she's too good for her environment. She's too good for the men that lives in her hometown. And she might have been single for a long time. I don't know her story. Like I don't know her story. But I know that she is far out of my ex-husband's league. And it shows it gives desperation. I'm tired of being lonely. I'm sick of being lonely. Listen, you do not remedy loneliness with marriage, with a rushed marriage, okay? You don't do it. Because now he's living in a house with another woman's teenage daughter, completely legal. So basically what happened in my case is that he can be a father to our children, and he can be around other children as long as it's under the supervision of another adult that's not on the child abuse registry. So that's the stipulations I made. Since everybody said, okay, it's completely legal, there's nothing we can do. I can't go nowhere and get no help, can't talk to nobody about it, except my therapist. What they told me to do is that, listen, because you guys just had all these babies together and they need a father and he's the only father, I would be crazy to go and just quickly jump into another marriage to remedy the disaster of my first marriage, right? Right, young lady? That would be crazy, right? So I said, okay, well, we're gonna follow the law. Since everybody else is following the law, I think he deserved to go to jail. But if we follow the law, he doesn't deserve to go to jail. What he did was trifling, but not illegal. So he still has rights to be able to be in his kid's life as long as it's under supervision. So I waited until he was with a nice, good woman who had her stuff together and had her head on straight. And I know she wasn't on no child abuse registry. And I waited until he was in that situation to let my children go and, you know, be with him and spend time with him. And I didn't go to her and tarnish his name and, oh, he did this and he did that. Da, 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 da. No, I wanted to be family. I wanted to be good and cordial. And I want her to accept and love my kids as her own. Because those kids was gonna be hers because he can't be alone with them legally, okay? And I know that she was gonna be the source of his stability. He was unstable when I met him and before I married him, and he's still unstable to this day. So had I chosen to be engaged to him for a few years, I would have saw his working patterns. I would have saw his lack of follow through. I would have saw his instability, and I would have known not to marry him based off of that. But I overlooked all the red flags. I overlooked everything because I was in a tight spot. I was in a position of desperation. Anytime you are in a position of desperation, whether it's because, you know, you're love starved, or no matter what's causing the feeling of desperation, no matter what's causing you to want to rush into marriage, you are somebody's prey, okay? You are predator bait. When you're desperate, you are predator bait. All of the predators rush in and feast off of the desperate person. And it doesn't matter if you're in a car dealership, it doesn't matter if you're applying for student loans, it doesn't matter whatever you're trying to get, relationships, friendships, whenever you're desperate, that is the highest, there's a high probability that you will attract predators. You have to make sure that your energy and your resources and your life isn't being preyed upon because you're trying to rush into something that's lifelong. You don't want to have a lifelong leech. You don't want to have a lifelong parasite. My husband was getting to be a lifelong parasite, and then he was bitter and mad at me when I detached the parasite. You know, when it's not easy. When you have a leech that's been on you for years and years, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And the attachment in your bloodstream is deeper and deeper. So it's harder to detach it. Okay? Leeches don't like to be detached. Okay? They have to make you look like the bad host and the bad guy. You don't want to do something that's going to tarnish your reputation. You don't want to do something that's going to hurt your future because you're desperate in this season to remedy, you know, maybe an unexpected pregnancy or whatever you're trying to do. You know, this could, anybody could see this. You know, this might not just be for the kids. But it's like, even now, it's like, okay, I don't even understand how his new wife is going to be able to build certain things and do certain things married to him, with him being on the child abuse registry, because like she can't really do anything with kids attached to his name. Like, there's a lot of people who know about this case. There's, you know, it might look like, okay, maybe his friends and his family kind of swept it under the rug, and his people are saying, oh no, they set him up. Listen, we got receipts. A lot of people have these receipts though. And you know, it might be his small community and his small town and his family and friends making it look like it's not a big deal. He's not a bad guy. He wouldn't do that. When there's ample biological forensic evidence, you know, of what he did. And there's hundreds of people outside of his small town and his friend group and his family. There's thousands of people know. You know, people know. So it's like, maybe inside of a small box, maybe inside of like a snow globe, you know, his kind of like snow globe type community. Maybe in there she's feeling like, okay, I'm not gaining a bad reputation. Everybody's not looking at me like I'm crazy. But the rest of the entire world, outside of even the legal system, the justice system, you know, the child abuse registry, the rest of the world outside of his snow globe, his community, we all know what happened. So yes, we're all looking at her like, sis, are you crazy? Do you realize, you know, I used to live in her hometown. A lot of people in her hometown know who he is and what he did, because I used to live in her hometown. So it's not even safe, okay, let me go move far away. No, it ain't safe. I used to live there too. I got people there right now, you know. It's like, it hurts her reputation because, hey, we all know that you're crazy enough to be living with a man and, you know, married to a man who, did you hear what he did to his ex-wife's daughter? Like, it's not a rumor. It's not like I'm just running around talking trash and with police reports and investigations. No. Nobody was more invested in his innocence than me. Nobody needed him to be innocent more than I did. But when I had to accept that he's not innocent, and my daughter, I needed my daughter to be innocent. I'm struggling now because I don't have my big 21-year-old daughter helping me through life, you know? She was an asset, okay? When you marry the person that might be the wrong person because you rushed, you lose assets behind that marriage, okay? But, you know, people see and know, like, hey, not only not only is his ex-wife saying he's a deadbeat, he hadn't talked to my children. He hasn't attempted to call my children. And he ain't been paying no child support in over a month now. And even before that, he only paid child support for maybe a few good months. Out of all of this time, it's like he's a deadbeat. He's unreliable. He's unstable. He doesn't keep promises. Like he doesn't keep his word. He doesn't have good follow through. You know, he can't hold things down and stable things. Like it's like, okay, she probably, okay, she doesn't have a standard where who he's with now, she doesn't have a standard where, hey, you gotta come and protect and provide. You know, you gotta come and provide for me and my children. You gotta come and you gotta cover us and protect us and provide for us and lift weight off my children. That's not her standard. But young women, I'm telling you that you need to learn from us. That needs to be your standard. If you already have children and you're thinking about getting married, him being a protector and provider, and you actually seen him do that, it needs to be your standard. Seriously, don't have everybody looking at you like you crazy, and like people basically looking at me and my ex-husband, new woman, like we both looking crazy at one point. She looking crazy now more than ever. I was looking crazy back then, because there's no reason why. I got married at 27. There was no reason why my husband hadn't had his first apartment yet. And he had 2 jobs when we got together. There's no reason why he shouldn't have been out on his own yet. There's no reason why he shouldn't have had his own car yet. There's no reason for a lot of the things that I overlooked because I was rushing. You cancel out a lot of red flags and you make a lot of excuses for people whenever you're desperate. That's why you are the predator snack. That's why you become prey, because you're desperate, so you don't have time to be picky. You don't have time to look for receipts. You don't have time, you don't have time. You don't have time because you're rushing. You need time. Marriage takes time. Even if you're having a baby, it takes time. And it's like, okay, if you don't take that time, you decide to solidify whatever dangerous mess might be in there for you. But you don't want to sacrifice the reputation of your future. You don't want to sacrifice what you're building for this moment in time when you might feel desperate. You don't want to let this moment in time dictate the rest of your future. Okay? Because a lot of y'all have bright futures. I know one of the young women that now she wants to rush into marriage. You know, she's looking to be an RN, okay? She wants to be an RN, continue in school. She wants to be a nurse practitioner. And marrying the wrong person, yes, it can get in the way of that. You know, yes, having the baby alone could get in the way of that. But actually solidifying the decision to be stuck with him could directly affect her future and her goals going forward. You know, I was very, very triggered today. You know, when it's like somebody saying something to you and you trying your best not to jump out of your skin, but what they saying is making you itch, making your eye twitch, making your ass itch. Okay, I was trying not to cuss, but that's what it was giving. That's the energy it was giving. She's like, yeah, we're gonna get married right after I graduate, and I'm sitting up here like, why would you do that? So, you know, and it's not, I don't want to trauma dump on the young ladies and, oh, I had it horrible, so you're gonna have it horrible. No. I want you to make a calculated, conscious decision. Like, I want you to take a calculated risk. Okay? Getting married when you're 50 is gonna be a risk. Getting married in your 30s is gonna be a risk. Getting married after knowing this person for 10 years is gonna be a risk. But I want you to take a calculated risk. I don't want you to take a risk and a leap of faith off of the diving board of desperation. Okay? Do not take a leap of faith off of the diving board of desperation, please, please. Because when you're desperate, you dive into a pool full of sharks that are predators. Like, they are the bloodthirsty piranhas, okay? I don't want you to take that dive, take that leap of faith off into a pool full of piranhas out here. I took a leap of faith on a damn piranha, and I got my damn head bit off. Bitch, I got my damn head bit off, okay? Listen, I almost lost my life because, yes, it took me every bit of my growth and maturity and my spirituality and my evolution to not end up in jail behind this. You know, people have lost their lives and their livelihoods marrying the wrong person. It happens. You can lose your health. You can lose a lot more than just, money and peace of mind. Okay, him cheating on you is not the most of your problem. That's probably the least of your problems, okay? I just want to make that clear. Because honestly, shoot, I wish I would have gotten regular cheated on. I got cheated on with my child. That's a certain type of mental disorder, sinister, crazy. And the craziness sucks you, and an abuser will suck you into their crazy, okay? And now you gotta make sure you don't go to jail, okay? I didn't even get this police report for a couple years because the cops didn't want to give it to me, because they had me on body camera saying, if he's doing this and that with my daughter, or he's trying to do something with my daughter, I'm gonna, I'm gonna take him out. And so it's like, they were hesitant to even give me this information. Like, I had to swear that they wouldn't be liable. I had to swear that I wouldn't do anything once I got the results back of the investigation, okay? So, and it took a few years. It took a few years for me to get them results back, honestly. So, that's what I mean. It's like, there's not going to be, once you take that leap of faith, there's not going to be a quick fix once you realize that you might have made a mistake. And so I want you to take calculated risks and make highly informed decisions, okay? Not because you're pregnant, and not because, listen, it's perfectly legal and it's not trifling to be having a baby outside of wedlock. It's perfectly legal, and ain't nobody gonna hurt you but you, okay? So you don't have to get married for that. And I don't want you to feel the pressures of society and do something that could be a detriment to the rest of your life because of outside pressures from society. It's not worth it. It's not healthy. And I want what's best for you. Like, I want what's best for all of my loving baby mamas. I'm a doula. I call my clients and my young ladies all my baby mamas. I love y'all, okay? I'm not saying it to be ghetto or berate anybody, okay? But I love y'all babies. Y'all my baby mamas. I love y'all, okay? From the big baby mama, from Big Mama, okay? From the big baby mama, from my heart to yours, I love you. I'm saying this with the utmost respect, and because I'm not looking at you young ladies like you're beneath me and I know everything because I'm older than you. No, I'm not that much older than you, but I overlooked a lot of red flags making a decision that I thought was best for my kids, and I completely disregarded will be safe and healthy for me, and then it turned out to be dangerous for my kids. So it's hard. It's hard. But I don't want your situation going forward to be harder than it has to be. All right? Love you.